ESSC 12003 Sports Psychology, Jonathan Weaver, student number S0232984. Topic 4. Discuss the potential positive and negative psychological effects of anabolic steroids. Steroids. What are they? Androgenic anabolic steroids, colloquially known as steroids, are synthetically developed drugs which mimic the effects of the naturally occurring or endogenous male hormone testosterone. According to McArdle et al. 2010, they were first identified in the 1930s and gained prominence in the 1950s as an effective treatment for patients with muscle wasting disease, breast cancer and osteoporosis in women, and to counter a decline in lean body mass in elderly men. Since their discovery, the use of androgenic anabolic steroids has gained a considerable following, with an estimated 1 million plus users in the United States alone. Bark et al. 1996. Aside from the most commonly perceived users, that being bodybuilders, their use has swelled to include adults, teenagers, and competitive and high-profile athletes in cycling, tennis, athletics, swimming, as well as infiltrating the elite professional sports of Major League Baseball and the NFL. Essentially, androgenic anabolic steroids have been synthetically altered to increase the production of proteins within muscle cells, resulting in muscle growth. In doing so, McArdle et al. 2010 notes that a consequence of manipulating the steroid's chemical structure in order to increase its anabolic effect has been a reduction in the steroid's masculizing effect. McArdle et al. 2010 also notes that the masculizing effect does still exist, particularly for women or female steroid users. Androgenic anabolic steroids can result in powerful effects on the body which can improve athletic performance, noted by Harkins and Kuipers 2004. Both McArdle et al. 2010 and Cox 2007 discuss the research which shows the biological effects associated with the use of androgenic anabolic steroids. These effects range from an increase in fat-free body mass, a reduction in fat mass, an increased muscular size and strength, through to an increased blood volume and red blood cell count. Mariab and Hone 2010 also contended that research shows a number of negative physiological effects with the use of androgenic anabolic steroids. These include an increase in the risk of heart disease and liver disease in all users, and more specifically in men, an increase in the risk of prostate cancer, testicular atrophy, gynecomastia, and a reduction in testosterone levels and sperm count. In female users, the negative biological effects include irregular menstrual cycles, a decrease in breast tissue, increased facial and body hair, and a deepening of the voice. Whilst research has shown the use of androgenic anabolic steroids to cause these and other physiological effects in users, Cox 2007 reports that the psychological and behavioural effects of androgenic anabolic steroid use are less well defined, and this presentation will focus on the potential positive and negative psychological effects of steroid use. Ulrich and Ewing 1999 conducted a study of a group of bodybuilders and weightlifters who were either current or previous users of steroids. Aside from one participant noting joint pain, bloating, muscle strains, and the feeling of extreme guilt, results from this study from all other participants reported no adverse effects of steroid use and noted enhanced physical enhanced psychological functioning, increased alertness, increased confidence, and increased aggressiveness, enhanced social recognition and acceptance, increased peer recognition, increased sexual attractiveness, enhanced vocational functioning, increased effectiveness, increased confidence, and increased alertness. It's also worthwhile noting that enhanced physical functioning, whilst being a physical function, did lead to positive psychological effects. Increased muscle mass led to an increase in confidence and positive body image. Increased libido led to increased confidence and perceived sexual attractiveness, and increased alertness. Confidence, peer acceptance, and body image are all major considerations for bodybuilders. Participants in this study reported starting the use of steroids out of curiosity and the desire to make strength gains. Some participants reported starting the use of steroids despite their own internal conflicts and the belief that the use could lead to cancer. According to the drugs in sport deterrence model, as part of deterrence theory, the benefits of the use of steroids and the prevailing situational factors outweighed the cost of deciding to use steroids for these athletes. Similarly, improvements in training and competition performance increases both confidence and enthusiasm in an athlete. McArdle et al. 2010 noted that body image disturbance may contribute to androgenic anabolic steroid usage among adults and teenagers alike. Furthermore, a study by Haupt and Revere in 1984 found that androgenic anabolic steroid usage resulted in increased confidence and euphoria, with these effects diminishing with the discontinuation. Yasalis et al. 1990. That said, this perception of improved performance may be the result of the psychological expectancy effect, where there was an expectation of athletes that they would become stronger and more aggressive when taking androgenic anabolic steroids. Cox 2007. And so this requires further research. Research thus far into the negative psychological effects have highlighted the following effects of androgenic anabolic steroid usage: deviant psychological behaviour, aggressive behaviour, paranoia, mood swings and hostility, hallucinations, psychosis, and depressive behaviour. Whilst the bulk of this research has centred on the increase to overt aggressive and psychotic behaviours associated with androgenic anabolic steroid usage, the results of these studies have been variable, have focused predominantly on male athletes, and have suggested the need to consider confounding factors and the relationships with other factors like steroid type and dose, use of other drugs, age, sex, and species. To illustrate this point, Cox 2007 noted a study conducted by Sharp and Collins in 1988. This study suggested that whilst there was growing evidence to suggest a link between steroids and deviant psychological behaviour, the connection to causality was weak. This study further contended that other psychological factors like expectancy and conformity interacted with androgenic anabolic steroid use to contribute towards aggression, noting that athletes in the study had access to the media, newspapers and magazines, and so knew that users typically exhibited aggression, and as such felt that they, as users, had to behave in line with this knowledge. Today's athletes, equipped with smartphones, access to the internet, YouTube, and social media, have unprecedented access to instant information with which to further exacerbate this issue. A study by Bark et al. 1990 concluded that whilst androgenic anabolic steroids has been associated with aggression in animals, it's less consistent in humans. This study also conceded that whilst steroid use may have effects on behaviour in some athletes, the effects were inconsistent, transitory upon the termination of the use, and more related to the type rather than the dose of steroid taken. In a further study by Bark et al. 1992, anabolic steroid users showed no difference in mood and hostility states using the Buzz-Durkee Hostility Inventory Score in a group of current, previous, and non-steroid users. A subsequent study by Bark and Misalis in 1994 found that a linkage existed between steroids, behavioural changes, and weight training, and suggested that weight training should be considered a confounding factor when examining the effects of androgenic anabolic steroid use on human behaviour. In yet another study by Bark et al. 1996, evidence was offered to suggest that anabolic steroids at moderate levels revealed no adverse effects on male sexual or aggressive behaviour. However, their use at high levels did demonstrate an association with psychotic episodes and aggressive behaviour. This study conceded, however, that studies looking at the association between steroids and negative psychological effects were complex due to a variety of limitations such as previous psychiatric record, vulnerability to addiction, psychological disorders, and peer pressure. A study by Gruber and Pope in 2000 of dedicated women athletes who were current androgenic anabolic steroid users, previous users, or non-users established that in addition to androgenic steroid abuse, this study also reported participants misusing a variety of other drugs and noted a number of psychiatric syndromes from both the user and non-user groups not previously well described, including hypomanic and depressive episodes, eating disorders, and chronic dissatisfaction with their appearance and physique. A study by Clark and Henderson in 2003 found that the effects of steroids on aggression were sex, species, and compound specific, suggested the need to acknowledge the interactions between androgenic anabolic steroids and other drugs such as cocaine and heroin, and established that there was no linkage between steroid use and short or long-term memory diminution. In summary, whilst there have been both positive and negative psychological effects of anabolic steroids recorded in a variety of studies, it is clear that more research is warranted in order to better understand the psychological effects of using these drugs. Reference list.